All right, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a dense to sparse relationship in images. In this one, I'm not going to be doing any talking. I'm just going to be sitting back and looking at the work of three different artists, Vincent Van Gogh, Pablo Picasso, and Katsushika Hokusai. In this, I want you to see the areas in these drawings and etchings where there's a contrast between dense areas of information and very sparse or empty areas of information. The way that these artists are using negative space to move into and out of the images, and the weight of the negative space in these images. Sometimes there'll be a harsh contrast between denser areas and sparser areas. Sometimes it's more of a modulation, moving from very dense gradually to very sparse. So just take the time to take a look at all of these images, and I'll explain the homework at the end. before we look at your homework, I want to go back and look at this image in particular. When we're looking at an image like this, I want you to take your thumb and place it over the head of this woman here in the drawing. The head in this image, I was taught, is something that's referred to as a purple patch. It is an area of the drawing that gives you a clue as to the meaning of the rest of it. So if you cover her head with your thumb and look at this, the marks of her robe that she's wearing, of the bonsai that she's sitting next to, these things start to fall apart and become simple, abstract lines that they no longer have the connection to the subject matter that they did. And then when you remove your thumb and see the head again, then they solidify into a meaning with content again. So Hokusai here is using very abstract lines in his drawings. These lines are lines that exist in and of themselves as marks, as design choices that speak to the content of the work, but at the same time exist in a design sense on their own. So there's an economy of means taking place, that these lines are accomplishing more than one thing at once. And let's go back and look at your homework. All right, so today I'm going to give you 2 assignments to complete, and this will be the norm for the rest of the semester going forward. There's a lot of information in design that you have to get through, so we're going to be compensating and reducing your load a little bit in one spot and upping it in others. So studio problem number 15, using variable line weight in a golden mean format, create a contrast of dense to sparse, and use a variety of position. Give me 10 thumbnails and only 5 variations, along with your final mounted design. In addition to that, you need to complete studio problem number 16. This is going to be square format divisions. So in a square, you're going to create 2 perpendicular lines meeting at a T, and you're going to do this 120 times. This sounds like a lot of work, but once you get your square grid laid out, it actually doesn't take much time at all. And let me show you what I want you to do with this. So you have your sheet of paper, and you're going to fill it with as many squares as you possibly can. The squares need to be at least like, 1.5 inches across, so that you can see them. Don't make them a 1/2 inch and try to cram them all into a single sheet of paper. It's going to be pretty useless for you. So you've got a sheet filled with 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch squares. And in each square, you're going to create 2 perpendicular horizontal and vertical lines, like this, or like that, or like this. And what you're going to see when you complete this is all the different ways that using just 2 lines, you can subdivide a square. And these divisions in the square are going to create different tensions within the square. So this is, this is looking at design in a really quick way. You should be able to move through these things very fast once you have your grid of squares laid out. You use a ruler to get crisp, straight lines, but think of this, in terms of if you're, say, designing a book, the page layout, website layout, anything like that, an image that you might be drawing or a painting that you might be making. These are the major divisions in that image, whatever it is. 2 simple lines meeting at a T, and how does that create different tensions, different pressures in each of the 4 corners of your square. My professor, when I was taking design, would talk to us about the pressures in your format. That sometimes it's helpful to think about your design as a pressure cooker. You've got your roast beef here, and you've got your potatoes over in this corner, and your carrots over in another corner, and you've got your onions over here. And each of those flavors is going to give a different pressure in that slow cooker. And so in the same way, in your format, in your design, each of the four corners should have a different pressure. Perhaps you want one of the corners to be left open so that you can move easily in and out of the design. Matisse does this a lot in his paintings and drawings. But his other three corners will be packed with different sorts of energy. And if you can create a design in which all four corners have different pressure in it, then you've got a more dynamic design to work with. So keeping that in mind, again, using two lines, very simple, that meet at a T, do this 120 times. And that's it. So once again, studio problem 15, variable line weight in a golden mean format, contrast of dense to sparse with a variety of position, 10 thumbnails and only 5 variations before your final design. In studio problem 16, square format divisions, 2 perpendicular lines meeting at a T, and do this 120 times. You're not going to create a final design for studio problem 16. All that I want to see is the 120 square format divisions. If you have any questions, shoot me an email.